We'll see.
Yeah, we were finding one song. Yeah. Sounds good. Is that gonna be up there? or-
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Hi, how's it going? Good. How's it going? Good.
Yeah.
I think at any point, when Kyle was. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's trouble.
The world is awaiting us.
Indeed. All right. For coming tonight. We are trying the first time since we've been back in person to do a live stream. So fingers crossed that this is all going to go well. And so hello to people who are streaming in. So this is the first Wednesday Spoken Word series. We are here every the first Wednesday of every month with two featured readers, in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. The Writers Guild of Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous community native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington were built on indigenous homelands and resources. Recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. I'm Joan Hawkins. I'm the chair of the Writers Guild, excuse me. And I have some announcements to make before I introduce our performers for tonight. So a reminder that we sponsor Third Sunday Right, which is still a virtual series, and it's a place where you can find writing prompts and the company of other writers. Members visit a private Facebook page to respond to prompts that are posted monthly, and then you may then write and post anytime during the month in response to that prompt, and offer a response to the writing of others by sharing a readback line, a line from their piece in the comments. If you would like more information, or if you'd like to join the group, please contact Shauna Ritter at shauna747@gmail.com. And please include Third Sunday in your subject line. And I should tell you right at the beginning, all of this information is also available at our website, writersguildbloomington.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter. Okay, so in addition to Third Sunday Right, First Sunday Prose is coming up. It's a reading and open mic, and it's also live and in person. The featured readers this month are John Cardwell and Joe Walker, and it will be followed by an open mic. And it will be at Morgenstern Books. Last Sunday poetry reading and open mic will be Sunday, March 26th, with featured poet Patsy Ron and Angela Jackson Brown, also followed by an open mic and also at Morgenstern Books. And I should say, we have an open mic tonight, and that sign-up sheet is out in the refreshment room on the table that has the candy to sweeten the enterprise. On March 22nd, there will be a launch party for Hiromi Yoshida's book, Icarus Superstar. That will be in Morgenstern Books at 6 p.m. And on March 31st, there will be a CD launch party for the collage CD that Kyle Klaas and I have just put out, Progress. And so it will be, the launch party will also be here. And again, all this information is available on our website or by liking and following us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And please sign up for our newsletter by visiting our website. It comes out like one week to 2 weeks. And it's not super heavy traffic. Okay. Next month, we will not be having our usual event here in April. Instead, we're doing a special collaboration with Pickpocket Books, which is an imprint of Galileo Press, and that'll be Thursday, April 6th, but the time still to be announced, and that'll be at the Bishop Bar, 123 South Walnut. And again, check our website. It's a program that we're doing with Matt Hart from the Cincinnati Art Institute, celebrating his new book, Familiar. And there will be poets from Bloomington, Rose Zinnia, Tony Brewer, Hiromi Yoshida, and Matt Hart's post-punk band Never Knew, and Bloomington favorite Specimens Holiday. And we'll come back here with the series Wednesday, May 3rd. Okay, so tonight we'll have some music from Nathan Dillon to begin, and then I'll introduce Tony Brewer. We'll have a longer set with Nathan. I'll introduce our Indiana State Poet Laureate, Matthew Graham, and then we'll have some more music and we'll have open mic. So Nathan Dillon is a singer, guitarist, songwriter. He's the band leader for the Aker Brothers. He's also the director of the music education company Everybody Rock in Brooklyn Conservatory for Guitar before running the circus, which I think is fantastic. So come on up.
Thank you. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm going to play a couple of songs for us to get started. I'm excited to be here. I think that the theme for my music tonight is collaboration. I love collaborating with other songwriters and other writers generally. Writing can be such a isolated endeavor at times. So when I find other songwriters that I work well with, it's really exciting. And I'm happy to report that Bloomington is part of a new resurgence of songwriting that's happening. There's a whole bunch of people writing a lot of great music. If you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to me at nathan@everybodyrocks.net, and I'm happy to share that information. I was recommended for this by a great songwriter named Kevin Shima. He used to be in a band called Homunculus. And I co-write with him, so I thought, what a better way to. Wax paper and combs a buzzing. I really hold on to things. Your picture is starting to fuzz. I've still got our wedding rings. Better make do with it. Bring you back all the same, all the same, all the same, all the same. This is the solo break for Kyle's trumpet. Come on over and stay late. I'd even let you play DJ. Crash my party like I used to do. Riding in high on a Moscow mule. Those were the days, those were the days. And I'm still missing you. Not just saying it, I'm singing it too. So you know it's gotta be true. Those were the days. Those were the days. Those were the days. Those were the days. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm tempted to go into like how the sausage was made, stuff about how we were writing songs together, but I will try to not talk and do more playing and singing for you. This is another song that was a collaboration. This is the last song that I recorded before lockdown. So the last people that I saw before lockdown were Jake Belzer at Primary Sound Studio, which we all know as Farm Fresh. Yeah, exactly. And Jake and I are involved in a songwriting group that happens out at Primary Sound a couple of times a month. And the last people that I saw before lockdown was Jake and the people who recorded this song with me. This was co-written by with another guy named Travis Riley, who I'm sure somebody here knows. Yeah. And so yeah, this is called 3 or 4 Losses. I'll go. 3 or 4 losses ago, I realized I wasn't keeping track anymore. Heartbreak, heart attack, was fluid with flag. 3 or 4 losses ago, 3 or 4 losses ago. Been several train wrecks since I realized I wasn't waiting for common sense. Never had it anyway. Not getting it today. No way. 3 or 4 losses ago. 3 or 4 losses ago. I don't wanna know the score. Maybe I'll win after you China shop once told me, I don't know how I got here, I only know I gotta keep making for the exit. Cut to the quick on the next bit. 3 or 4 losses to go, 3 or 4 losses to go. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Do I have time to do one more? Are we at 10 minutes? Okay, one more. So, I was lucky enough to be on a show called On the Porch, which is a new regional public television show out of Vincennes. I think it's on TIU now too, but I'm not sure. It's called On the Porch with John Gregg. And I don't know if anybody knows who John Gregg is. He was the longest serving majority leader of the state Senate. Anyway, he looks like Santa Claus and he's hilarious. And my job on the show was to teach him to play guitar. A man who'd never played guitar before. And they said, your segment is 5 minutes long and you have 3 minutes to teach him to play guitar. Okay, so so I wrote a song called On the Porch and taught him to play it, and we played it on the show, and we did it in a couple of minutes. And they liked the song so much that they've continued to use it in other episodes. So I'm going to play that now. What I taught Mr. Gregg was a G chord and a C major 7 chord, which is the same shape, move 1 string over. Because that's what we had time for. So this is called On the Porch. You got a story, I'd like to hear it. Morning glories, boats on the river. Sit a spell, sing a tune to yourself, and I'll join you on the porch. On the porch means everything to come home, spinning weather vane and a cup of joe. Wave hello from across the street. We're all friends when we meet on the porch. On the porch. On the porch. On the porch. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
So, thank you so much, Nathan. That was wonderful. Our first featured reader tonight is Tony BREWER, who is a poet and live sound effects artist from Bloomington, Indiana. He frequently collaborates with the experimental audio collective Urban Deer Record Collective and appears on the albums Paris Suite and 6 Realms. His books include welcoming Tony BREWER.
Thanks for being here. Hearts and minds. Paul Mabin and his family own a farm. He is the last one left alive to work. On day one, I tell him, if you can talk, you can read. He already has words, a warm wind of vowels and consonants. We diagram and map, newspaper obit, tractor part, street sign, McDonald's menu. He can look up times and TV guide. I don't let him read his Bible here. He knows too much of it by heart. I tell him Italians use their hands to speak, but Americans use verbal shorthand. Entire conversations are held in it. He asks about Iraq and Afghanistan. I unfold a National Geographic map and we begin at Jerusalem in Israel. He knows about the Crusades, but is surprised by how large Africa looms, and Saudi Arabia, and next to it, Egypt, right across the water from Rome and Germany. I tell him World War lies on top of World War I, so some countries no longer exist. Russia, now attached to Mongolia, and China, sans Hong Kong, both Koreas, both Vietnams. His finger traces place names he has heard on TV. They jigsaw around his tongue and slipping plate. I get him to practice reading at home. He watches too much Fox and not enough news, but I don't undo it when he passes me his Bible. I explain its map of hotspots too. Galilee and Bethlehem and Jerusalem again, where Christ was crucified near where Mohammed also ascended to heaven. Paul knows Muhammad, likes his story, and asks what I believe. I tell him I believe he needs to practice writing each letter 10 times, caps and lowercase, on gray paper with big dashed middle lines. He ignores and writes where he wants. Sometimes Paul skips our Saturday sessions to sweep up and dump trash and polish at a Hardee's. 75 years old and filling his off hours with my tutelage. He preferred sweating on asphalt to sitting with me in the library back room. I showed him how the Pope took Byzantium, how democracy covers the desert like a sack. In that National Geographic with the map is the story of an Afghan woman, fresh blue ink on her index finger. She has only ever seen her small plot of earth, but her hard hands and eyes escape the fabric of her life. Americans come and go. Soviets came and went. The sun and moon and her family are all that matter, and one book some of them can read, others know it by heart. So I'm going to read mostly out of two books, Pity for Sale, which came out last February from Galileo Press, and Hot Type Cold Read, which came out in, I think, 2013 from Chatterhouse Press up there in Indianapolis. So this is a Sestina that I'm remarkably shot. This is Dorothy, we're not listening to Kansas more. Life is a glorious cycle of song. Sorry if you don't get the joke. Singing fans your little hurts, but only when you don't know the words. Otherwise, you might find you can keep time, but after a while, your brain gets bored with all that rickety racket. Bored, pretend. That's when concerts turn into a big joke. I like readings better. I like words, but I like hearing too. Sometimes listening hurts. Sticks and the Stones can wound and hurt with their volume and chords, and I get bored listening to bands musicalize empty words and render cliches rocked into song. It's all one long, unbroken rhythmic joke, as if we, the audience, have all the time in the world, yet we have no time. I can say from experience, it never hurts to listen to a badly told joke as long as you don't look bored. It's like someone else's favorite song you don't like. You learn the words to make them happy, but alone the words are actually pretty lame, especially times when they're just singing that song, but they really can't sing. You don't want to hurt their feelings, but you are bored, inwardly laugh thinking, what a joke. Conversely, try telling your own joke. Make up and write and rewrite your words the next time you're at a reading, bored, or are draped on the railing at a concert, killing time you'll never get back, looking cool and hurt and obviously so like over this song. But if everyone is bored from just your telling the joke and you can't read music, but you know the words, you're wasting your time writing laughter. Try hurt. I picked a few things about music. I don't know why necessarily. I'm just trying to move into different areas of the books that I haven't read as often as others. And so like that one and this one, which I'm not even sure why I put them back to back, but here we go. I used to play traditional Irish music. I was a bowron player, the frame drum in some traditional Irish bands around town. So this is kind of about that experience, called At the End of the Session. 2 hours ago, the music had a sweet melancholy and a melancholy sweetness. Fast or slow, it pained and soothed the notes and the memories they evoked, and the muscles paying for playing them. Like rubbing a bump on the head so hard it feels good, or scratching poison ivy, or drinking past the point of social lubrication and onward as dim sunlight moves the show of a great henge till the beer breaks on the granite of the gut and soaks into the stomach's bog. For the skin is the earth, just as the voice is the warbling heaven of an E string, stabbed with a finger twisting in the wound of notes near the heart. A non-traditional technique, but just then the tune's winding down, all the cheer gone out of the table, no more money left for pints. There was a rightness musicianship does not require. Even happy dogs sighing seemed sad, content at master's feet, worn out and gray around the muzzle, but not yet too old to get up and play. One out of here. This is one from Homunculus. There we go. You know, I like typewriters. You know, I use typewriters all the time. So I wrote this some years ago now for a nature poetry contest, I think in Anderson. Excuse me. This is called Trees Are Poems to a Typewriter in the Woods. I wish my head could do that. Beats to trees so hard, shards of bark like words spray from beneath a pointy beak. My brain could take it, wrapped as a woodpecker's in the prehensile blanket of a keyhole sawtooth tongue, the skin around my thick skull and eye sockets sturdy enough to withstand infinite repeated impact. And what would I do with the grubs? I'd eat them, screams and all, reverting to arboreal instinct where I perch on what I destroy to nourish myself, or mark a trunk to prove I exist, inhaling cedar into hollow bones. Deep in pulp and the rat-a-tat-tat of pecking I produce feed my face, my insane laugh mistaken for a ploy to attract a mate. I'd make the sound of a cartoon arrow striking a cartoon tree. My life spent killing sycamores to get the bugs, killing them slow anyway. Clinging to bark I nail with my head, my tongue as long as my body, darting out, snagging the prize inside, and recoiling back around a padded gray walnut of brain. I'd relish the silence immediately after it's broken by my frantic code, then tense my neck and make a hit I'd made perfect, plumb, and true 20,000 times on this trunk alone. Feathers ruffling to repel splinters as I bore a hole to heartwood, my eyes shut, holding tight my limb, my crown, a red tuft, chiseling in a blur, the only story I know to tell. I want to take a moment to admire the beautiful artwork around us and this is Dawn Adams, who's a local artist. She's one of my favorite local artist, frankly. Her work with water is amazing. I love the backdrop, which is not a photograph. It's a beautiful painting. So thrilled to be here. I guess they're doing she and Martina Sellerin are doing a gallery opening Friday. So we have a special treat of getting to see it a little early.
And where is that at, Tony?
Right here at Backspace Gallery. Welcome, world, to the Backspace Gallery right here on the square in beautiful downtown Bloomington, Indiana. Okay, I'm gonna read a handful of poems on demand. So I mentioned typewriters. I've been making poetry on demand at various events for about 13 years now, and I've amassed enough now that I'm finally working on a manuscript of them. Finally trying to make something out of them besides giving them away to people. I'm actually trying to put them into a book, and so. So I'm going to read a handful of these. And I'm going to tell you where they're from too, which is always fun. It's kind of like a trip down memory lane in some ways. So I'm going to read a few of these and then I'll close with one and then I'll be good. This is What Would Thoreau Do? From 4th Street Festival, September 3rd, 2016. What would Thoreau do? These are days the pond was made for. The isolated mind, like a skipped stone, riding its own echo, then sinking. The safe space of the forest, unencumbered, disinterested. The fertile earth, perfect and unable to vote. Eternal outsider inside us all. So the way this works, typically, I've got a poem called How This Works that I wrote at a Poetry on Demand event. Basically, people would, you like Carney Barker, you ask people if they want a poem. If they say yes, then you have a little interview with them for 5 minutes or so and talk about the kind of poem they want or what they want it to be about, and make a bunch of notes, and then you make them go away. And then when they come back 10 or 15 minutes later, you present them with a typed up poem that I've typed up on a typewriter, and you're giving them a little reading, and they give me a little donation, and then they walk away, and I do another one. And I think my record is, I made 32 poems in an 8-hour shift one time. Yeah, so it can, it can be a real factory, and you forget about them. That's the great thing. To me, that's the great thing, is you kind of forget about them because you're just cranking away. And you do one that's really serious about someone's recent breakup, and then you do one for a 5-year-old about unicorns, and then you do one for someone's 32nd wedding anniversary, and then you do one about someone who it's really life comes at you fast when you're making poems for people out on the street or other places. So this and I like this one. The thing I like the most about it is that I didn't do the interview. What happens when we get really busy is sometimes someone else will do the interview or they'll talk to them about the poem that they want, but then they're so busy they can't actually write it. And so they kind of get handed off to me. That's kind of the assembly line fashion, which I also enjoy. And so all I got was the title and then had to make the poem for the person when she came back. And the title is Tea Party of Grief. This is from a Fair of the Arts here in Bloomington, August 10th, 2021. Tea Party of Grief. It steeps in the belly of the pot as it brews and stews, keeping you up or knocking you out, depending on what leaves. Some sadness has a limit, who has a seat at table. Some leaves a whole life unstable, unable to see a whole life, like a mask that cannot be removed, only grown accustomed to. Soaking into the psyche like rain seeps into skin, surviving, but wet with regret or merely damp with memory. Dunked over and over in it till the tea grows tepid, is drunk, and the guests full go home, but you're still here, left to clean up. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Some of these adorn some of the finest refrigerators and walls in Indiana. And I made this one for Marie. And it's not technically not a poetry on demand because she didn't demand it. She didn't ask for it. This was a Christmas present from our first year together, which was a great year. They've all been great years, but this is from, wrote this on December 19th, 2015. This is a strong female character. Of course she can clear any obstacle. Plasma rifle shoulder kick only takes getting used to. Forces of nature, no storytelling trope, merely accounted for. Not as many verses as literature requires, but enmity and amity, states of capability and vulnerability coalesce in her frame. Hope unlooked for happens to survivors, mislabeled objects of directorial desire. It's about movies. Okay, two more of these little ones, and then I'll do something slightly longer, and then we'll be good. This is from Poet Palooza down there in Madison, Indiana, April 22nd, 2016. The Botany of You. With a sharp yank where stem meets earth is how we move from the cradle to the pot. Such concern for drainage and appropriate placement to achieve optimal natural light, or kept alive in a hot greenhouse under timed fake lamps, root-bound world. And then the last one. This was a commission I did actually for a friend of mine. When her mother passed away, who was a big fan of Elvis Presley. I got to sing a little bit for this one. So this is from June 15th, 2020. It's called Crazy About Elvis. And don't we all, like the king, live life in different stages? One Christmas tree so packed with beautifully child-made ornaments, its branches bagged with love, leading to traditionally trimmed tannenbaum, festooned with hearth and home, outshone by the peacock tree, gaudy as Graceland's rhinestone-studded cape. Like a river flows surely to the sea. Middle child, setter of all tables, and lover of getting us together. Here we are, gathered once more, polished like so many sets of silver and dusted knickknacks on proud display. Darling, so it goes, some things were meant to be. Like shells on a Florida beach, our gifts wash up, discovered as some are taken by the tide. But the ones we saved, memories of dances and blooms, of feasts and favorite tunes, are keepsakes, everlasting, tenderly. I'll close with this and then we'll bring Nathan back up. This is the last poem in Hot Type Cold Read. And this is based on a true story. I remember the house I was living in at the time. I would wake up in the morning and listen to, the fun stuff, NPR. And one morning listening to the radio. I was here on the radio instead of ouster, and dream a tinker governing the land, just as my book is putting me to sleep. In overalls, he fixes something. Once he's taken it apart and laid it out, a constellation on a blanket in the bed of a crew cab truck. Springs and cogs and wing nuts speak to him. Purposeless unless part of a great exploded schematic. No one wants to be a part left over. Singular, non-moving parts that do not fit or are missing. Now the toaster is toasting again. My old gray tome of Eskimo poems is a manual for how to catch fish, but one has to live like them to understand the many steps. I still want to know why everything finally fits inside a shell too tight for God. Only things that work go in there. A smaller screwdriver is required, but experience with tabs and slots is what repairs all appliances. I think the newsman meant alliances and stabs and plots and despair. The book falls off me to the floor. I lose my place. Thanks.
Wow.
And please welcome back, Mr. Nathan Dillon.
I know I'm supposed to play songs, but I really just want to talk about your poems. I don't know. I'm going to share one little bit of information since, gosh, there were so many things I would like to talk about with you. Maybe we can meet after this.
Sure.
But in terms of making poetry on the spot, checking it out, I love that kind of songwriting as well. So I often am pushing other songwriters to write that way. Right? Songwriting, I don't know if it's all writing, but songwriting is really about tonnage. So it's making a ton, and hopefully at some point you'll get to some kernel. So I'm constantly pushing people to let go of what they just did and keep going with more. And so Wax Paper, this first song that I played that I wrote with Kevin Shima, was an exercise in that with the songwriting group that I run. And the exercise was we had 15 minutes. I said, pick a song, I don't care what song, and free write just as much as you possibly can within the rhythm of the lyrics. And you don't even have to tell us what the song is, I don't care. And then when we're done, everybody trades, everybody leaves and takes their paper with them, and you write a song from whatever that person has written. So you just go, and you hand it off, just like you're talking about with the poetry on demand. So I'm going to tell you what Kevin's song was that he used to write his free write that I then took and turned into Wax Paper, the jazzy thing that I just played. So it starts with wax paper and combs a buzzing. I hold on to things. Well, that was the first line, and I thought, well, was the Suns and Nixon's coming. We're finally higher. And I mean, I was like, that's great. I'm not using that. But it was, that's how, when we're collaborating, is handing it off, getting it out there as much as we possibly can. So anyway, I'm going to play a song. This is another song that comes from the Bloomington song. It doesn't have a name yet. This was early on, and we were writing trying to get placement on a TV show. So the prompt was from the producers, and the prompt was, it has to be a song with the word hello in it. Well, I don't know if you know pop music, but there's a lot of songs already with the word hello in it. So quite difficult. I don't want to be Kenny Rogers. Anyway, Adele. Anyway, but it turned out to be a really good exercise because it forces you to think you have to forget everything that you've heard, right? So anyway, this is that song. It's called Hello, Goodbye. Hello. Almost in the same breath, gone in the blink of an eye. Hello. Had to wait to catch my breath. Couldn't you stayed for a while? Here's the setup. Wish I could have kept up. I've been waiting for somebody like you. Here's the punchline. You were gone in no time. It'd be funny if it weren't so sad and true. Hello. Felt like I lived a life in the time it took to turn out the light. Hello. You have loved and lost it all. I'm alone tonight. I've been going round in my head. Something I could have done, something I could have said. 'Cause you had me at hello. Had me at hello. Had me at hello. I appreciate that. I gotta say, it feels weird to play songs in front of poets. Now it's like, that was a cliche, that was a cliche, that was a cliche. Gotta calm that inner voice, keep singing songs. This next song is a song that took years to write, and it got rewritten over and over and over. I pulled up out in front of what's the school right over here? Fairview School. I was teaching guitar there years ago. And sitting there, I had a minute. I'm like, I'm going to write a song. And because that's how my brain, playing in the backyard of this house, right up the road from the school. And the first two verses came out of that. Yeah. This is not about me. I'm a good father. Okay, let me just say that right now. All right. Times out of 10, I was out of reach. Makes it hard for a man to teach who to trust and when to speak. That feels out of reach. That feels out of reach. Out of reach. One plus one turned into three. He plays in the backyard and he waits for me. Thought I knew what a man was supposed to be. That feels out of reach. Out of reach. Too young and dumb to know what it would take to raise youngins. I'm lost in the woods, tracing steps my father made. When I hear you say, in your own sweet way, promises, empty promises, are still promises to me. Promises, empty promises, are still promises. I see. Yeah, trumpet's so good right now. I didn't think of that. Promises, empty promises, are still promises to me. Promises, empty promises, still promises. I see now how I need to change. The song that I was looking at what I don't know what my time is on here. I want to make sure I don't go over. Am I good? 10 more minutes. All right. Oh, should I play all the sad ones? I don't know. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play a little bit of a sad one. Then I'm gonna play a little bit of a happy one. So one thing that I like to do if I am so sick of hearing myself play the same thing over, just watching somebody tune a guitar on stage. This song took, again, a long time to write. It was fully written and thrown out at least 3 times. Something else that I'll do to trick my brain out of doing the same old thing over and over is to play slide guitar, which is where you put a metal cylinder on your finger and you, it's kind of like playing guitar with roller skates on. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. But anyway, this song is not the one that I have pulled up. Give me 1 second. I came up with the riff and the idea, and then it took so long to make it not sound like I was being a jerk face. So let's hope that that doesn't happen. All right. This is called If It's Over. If it's over, all the jokes and excuses have fallen flat. If it's over, done gone round and round about who keeps the cat. I'll come find you. I'll pick you up, bring you coffee and a paper cup. Oh, if it's over, it's over. Boxes, crates, and bags are all getting over. You're all run out from trying to keep up that. I'll come collect you as you make the call. Take you all the way. Back to your mom. Oh, a quiet ending to a brand new start. The road bends away from the heart. Oh, when it's over. Oh, when it's over. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. One more? All right. One more, she says. One more. All right. So I am not here to convince you that country music is great. However, it is. So if you say, I like this, I don't like country music, you're wrong. Okay? Country music is like any other genre of music. A whole bunch of it is terrible. Truly. But the part that's good, oh man, is it good? I heard somebody way smarter than me say that country music is about not adult things like inappropriate things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how am I going to pay the mortgage? You know, the kids are gone and the house is quiet. Adult things. And the stories that they tell are adult stories. So I'm going to play a country song for you. This is the first country song I ever really wrote. I grew up in East Tennessee, born in Alabama, grew up in Tennessee. If that isn't a song, I don't know what is. But this is not one of those sad ones, though. This is an upbeat country song. Not anywhere else in my life. So this song is called Brand New Man. I'm getting back to base. The base of my A6. Get the car running, puffing and puffing, just like that. I'm getting back to the land. Allergic to everything, I can't stand it. Might as well sit inside and try my hand at writing a song about a brand new man. I'm a brand new man. I'm a brand new man. Every time I close my eyes and open them again, I'm a brand new man. I'm getting down to business, gonna sell it like it's Christmas. It'll take a lot of cunning, it's worth it in the end. I'm getting tired of justifying every move I make, I ain't lying. For heaven's sake, you know I'm gonna keep trying. I got a brand new plan. I'm a brand new man. I'm a brand new man. My eyes are open wide, I'm taking man. Brand new man. I'm a brand new man. I'm a brand new man. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much.
So we're gonna take 5, and there's noshes, there's beer and wine, and then we'll come back and have a little bit more bacon, and we'll have. Get up.
Hello.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, this one? Yeah.
How's it going, Nathan? Dave, nice to meet you. Everybody, this is my mom, Sherry. Sherry is a writer as well. So this is her first time. What's the first time you've heard her? She just retired 2 days ago, so she's ready to write. So, yeah, so that's why. Great set. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You too. Yeah, I really just wanted to talk about it. So good. That was actually.
I did, that's why I looked up. I was asking what it's
And excuse me, but everybody, there's a sign-up sheet for open mic on the candy table, if you haven't signed up yet.
Yeah. Morgan. Yeah. Yeah. There was one last month here at the state finish here. Yeah. 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 I never. Yeah. It's on Facebook. He's very busy, right? I mean, he probably died now. Okay. Yeah, maybe that they were. Yeah. Yeah, this is mood. I think. Yeah, he's in there. Yeah, Mike. He calls complexity in bed by like 8:05. I just think. First, I do it, and I don't have kids, I've had kids. Right, because you're not gonna use that phone. Yeah. Right, you have the hour of quiet, where you're not being stopped and asked questions for a second. Yeah. Yeah. And then you still have to fix kids up or keep fix kids up. Yeah. That's still a lot. Did you not understand that he was marrying a teacher? You didn't know, that's what you're going to. Right, there's like spots for that. I've lived with people like that. I've been to college, I've been to college before, but I stopped. Yeah. 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 Sure. Yeah, and it's part of the purpose, like, classwork, and it'll be like easier to do like. Yeah.
I don't know, I think this is dangerous. Drinking important mix. I'm not sure. I think it's like putting gasoline on a fire.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the guy? Were you there for the guy that was in the bar fight?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I can
There's a
remember.
Morgan Stern.
I remember.
No, one of the featured blog readers. He had like I can't remember his name. He had like, it was like mid-30s, mid-40s. Had a Nirvana t-shirt, jeans with the knees ripped out, long underwear underneath them. And his face was all beat up. He'd been in a bar fight the night before. Yeah, I think he's a bouncer or something.
Well, no, he just got, he had posted on Facebook and I'd been shocked. I wasn't sure he was gonna make that meeting.
I did. He wrote Well, this guy, was that people who said that you can find a place to read, you just wanted to pull out, stand up on a pool table and start reading poetry.
Yeah.
You either got beat up or made $50. Was that the guy?
Sometimes you not want to read this.
Yeah. A lot of people did.
One week from today.
What
time is your flight leave?
That's a legal qualification. Well, I was looking at the door express.
Yeah.
Kind of worried about
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Hey, everybody, come on back in.
They always mix,
Grab your
but-
drink, grab your snacks, sign up for open mic, come on back.
Yeah, so you're on fire. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you need a dimmer on the lights, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to do short. It's been a small group
But I mean.
until the last week. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of.
I'm not sure that everybody does
Oh, Sarah. I sent her a lease.
Anyway, you should have with the next one.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's good. Well, it's still. Yeah, I'll be doing it.
Yeah. And Mark's.
Mom, you wanna do a duet?
I do not.
Are you sure?
I
So
am
Nick was gonna do one song and
What would you say if I said okay?
I done, could sing Jackson or something like that. Isn't it a good song? When I sing in nursing homes all day, and if I sing Jackson, I'll do both parts. So I'll be like, "You go on down to Jackson." Yeah, it's pretty fun. All right. One more song for you. It's really great to be here, everybody. I'm gonna play a short one. Climb the stairs, lay your head, say your prayer, go to bed. Don't mind the wind, don't worry none. The creek will bend, but it won't flood. And soon the sun raises his head. So will you. I'll be there too. And soon the sun raises his head. and so will you. I'll be there too. All right. Oh, good.
So once again, thank you to everybody for coming out. And it's my pleasure to introduce Matthew Graham. During his 35 years in Southern Indiana, current poet laureate Matthew Graham has been a respected and recognized writer, teacher, and advocate for poetry and the arts. Having recently retired from the University of Southern Indiana, USI, he has taught all levels of creative writing, contemporary literature, and worked with multicultural and international students in freshman composition. He is the author of 4 books of poetry, most recently The Geography of Home, published by Galileo Press in 2018. His work has earned numerous national, regional, and local honors and awards, including a Pushcart Prize, an Academy of American Poets Award, 2 grants from the Indiana Arts Commission, and the Artist of the Year Award from the Arts Council of Southwestern Indiana. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Graham.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. What a wonderful place and great setting. Thank you, Tony, for having me. My wife and I drove up from Evansville today, and you know there's a highway now. You know that? You can get to Southern Indiana with only like 2 or 3 lights. It's a pleasure. I'd like to read a couple of poems from my last book, then a couple of new poems. I'd like to start out with a funny poem. This is a funny poem, okay? Poems are not supposed to be funny, but, well, it's kind of serious, but it's also funny. Looking at the crowd, I know I don't have to explain much about this poem. It's called Dick and Jane. You all remember Dick and Jane? Anybody too young to know Dick and Jane? You're too young. They were the characters in these series of readers that most of us grew up reading in grammar school. We learned to read by following their antics. They were brother and sister. The poem pretty much explains them and how much I dislike them. Didn't we all really dislike them? You're too young too, aren't you? No? Okay. Well, there are variations on Dick and Jane. There were other. Don't blow my punchline. So this is called Dick and Jane. Oh, how I hated their precious pets and perfect parents. Their goody two-shoed lives balanced on the footbridge of white bread and moral smugness. But they taught me to read, taught me to live. And then they vanished from the public eye in 1965, aged 10 and 8. They'd be in their late 50s, early 60s by now, and I hope it was a rocky ride of rehab and therapy. But it wasn't really. Jane's first marriage was short and terrible, but her second was happy. She's a retired nurse practitioner with 3 loving grandchildren. Dick still works as an insurance adjuster and is a closeted member of the school board. Isn't it funny how in some ways we were never children, and in other ways we always are? They taught me to read. They taught me to see. See the weary light on the lawn of late summer. See the years rise like ash into a starless sky. See Spot run. It was very mean of me to do that to Dick. It was so much fun to imagine that they were real and what happened to them, you know. But what, you know, they're in the books, it was like See Spot Run was like first grade, and it actually got more complicated. See, they were very white, very suburban. They had this stay-at-home mom and this dad who put a hat and suit on and went off somewhere and came back. And you know, who lived like that? It was so weird to how I grew up.
I know who you're talking about, but I like it that you think I'm young. So.
And when they were retired from public school,
They were bought up by the parochial schools. We had them for a long time.
Oh. Were they named the same?
Yeah, it was the same books.
Same books?
Yeah, remaindered out to the parochial schools.
Right. Well, this book is called The Geography of Home, and it tries to establish all the different ways we consider home, and you know, in that sense, the past is a home. All the different landscapes that become our homes over the years, from real places to psychological places, and to the past. A great deal of the first part of the book is about the past. In this next poem, I realized that you could write a poem just by naming things, making a list of things. You don't have to necessarily string them together into sentences, because they're imbued, words are imbued with such meaning and background to them. And again, I don't need to explain any of this to anybody. It's called What Left with My Father When He Died. Shoehorns, pocket combs, handkerchiefs, Vitalis, wristwatches, safety razors, unfiltered Pall Malls, blackjack chewing gum, party lines, TV antennas, rotary phones, snow tires, retreads, leaded gasoline, and road maps. To his dismay, I can never refold the proper way. So, I mean, all those things define someone or a time and a person. And don't you all remember those road maps that you just could never put back together again? We still have road maps. We like road maps. We have an atlas at least. I like something physical. But those things kind of define my father for me. I like to read a poem about a real home, a real city. It's about New Orleans, and since we have a lot of music on our minds tonight, it's certainly, how can you write about New Orleans and not write about music? It's called How Stable the City of God Have Disordered the City of Man. It begins with a quote from Little Queenie and the Percolators. My darling Nolans. The year of my first city, when the Neville brothers were the bar band at Tipitinas. The year the wild Tapatulas tribe descended on St. Joseph's Day, a firebomb of feathers and sequins. The year spent 2 weeks at a time on a towboat and 1 week of mischief at a time in the quarter. Is the Atrans Galant still there, or has it vanished like a memory of a bad memory? The year the river ran like dengue fever through the blood of Magazine Street. The year of dancing madly to the ancient drums in the turmoil of Congo Square. The year of the girls in the Desire Street Project with their golden wisdom teeth. The year of voodoo and zydeco and heat light lasered against the trembling night. The year the night tripper played his broken squeeze box for all those troubled ghosts outside the Napoleon House. The year they dusted off Professor Longhair from his janitor job in a warehouse in the Irish Channel and propped him back up at his piano. In the year they released his lost sessions, not lost, not even misplaced, merely an answer to how love is revealed. My homage to New Orleans. I'd like to read some new poems. I'm writing a series of new poems that I hope will be published this summer, basically as poet laureate. It was really, you know, they made me poet laureate, and then COVID kicked in, and I couldn't do anything that I was going to do, and so they gave me an extra year, and then they gave me another year. So it's been nice. So I've been enjoying the Learjet and the private car. It's nice. But I've been doing a lot of traveling around Indiana and a lot of research about Indiana. And especially, you know, how many artists and writers and musicians there are from Indiana. It's astounding. It really is. And so I've been writing a series of poems where, for most of them, I begin with a line, mainly from a writer, an Indiana writer, someone with a connection to Indiana. And many of these are writers that are important writers that have kind of been forgotten. And I just use the line as kind of a springboard to write the rest of the poem from. And this one is called, and they begin with the line. Beginning with a line from Theodore Dreiser. Of dreams and the memory of them is life compounded. He didn't book passage on the Titanic for his return voyage to America because his British publisher found a cheaper ticket on a different line. He loved Booth Tarkington's writing, but was reluctant to visit him in Indianapolis because he feared the writer despised him. Think about those dreams when as a child he was cuffed about the chops by an unemployed father sunk in the poverty of Terre Haute. Think of Terre Haute and the French influence of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Think of bloodshed. Think of isolation. Think of his novel, Sister Carrie, an American tragedy that kissed the poor on the mouth. Think of memories. H.L. Mencken once said Dreiser's involvement with communism was only a small part of his rich life, his groundbreaking life. We are only here because of the compounded lives before us. We are here because of memory. Think of memories. The North Atlantic at night, the prairies and forests of the heartland, the Wabash in the moonlight. Thanks. This is beginning with a line from Mari Evans. Mari Evans was a very important writer in the Black Arts movement in India in the later part of the 20th century. Listening can understand the absence of future, the improbability, in fact, of possibility. The shadows of the sundown towns, Tell City, Rockport, Newburgh, Mount Vernon, stretch silently all along the Ohio in the wake of the Great Migration. Later in Evansville, Indianapolis, and Fort Wayne, the roar of the great machines of white renewal drowned out history itself and the future. The wind-blown empty lots, the odd and deserted dead-ended blocks. Listen to the murmur of the ruins. Yes. Probably one of the most famous people from Indiana was an actor. And this poem is just called Fairmont. James Dean's grave sits in a muddy and slightly shabby cemetery outside of Fairmont and is littered still with dying roses and smudged lipstick kisses on this late February afternoon. In town, there's a small museum and gift shop where you can find the leather jacket with his turned-up collar, his shrug to the world, his high school basketball uniform, the yearbook photos of his nearsighted sneer, his girlish smile. The casket was closed to the service. Elizabeth Taylor sent flowers. It seems that to be immortal in America is to die young and beautiful in California and then be brought back to the rich and anonymous soil only central Indiana can provide. I don't know if you've been to Fairmont, but if you haven't, you should. It's about halfway between Indy and Fort Wayne on 69. And it's really strange, and the museum is strange, and you look in his yearbook, and there's all these geeky Midwestern farm kids, and there's James Dean. You're like, what's he doing in that yearbook? You know, you're like, my God. Because he was James Dean in high school. I mean, he didn't look much different. Okay, two more. I like what you all said at the beginning of your introduction to this about the Native Americans and their land here. And most of us think of Tecumseh as a Native American leader. He's also a writer, and he wrote in English, and he wrote some very interesting essays. And this is called Beginning with a Line from Tecumseh. The white man says there is freedom and justice for all, and that is why we have been almost exterminated. We should not forget this. In Lossing's famous engraving, based on the fur trader Pierre Ledru's sketch done in Vincennes in 1808, Tecumseh wears a British brigadier general's dress coat and sports a medallion etched with the likeness of King George III. His cheekbones are high and feminine, his nose thin, his eyes distant and distracted. Do not forget Tippecanoe, the burning of Prophet Town, and the desecration of the graves. Do not forget confederations and ceaseless betrayal. Remember the Shawnee and the Miami and the Chickasaw, and that his people didn't want to become congressmen or bankers. Remember the sacred unity of the sky and land, the gloaming light of late spring in the Indiana Territory. Do not forget language, or that in 5 years he'll be dead at the Battle of the Thames, in the even further desolation of Upper Canada. On a happy note, I know you're having an open mic in a moment, and I always wanted Walt Whitman would have loved open mics. Can't you see it? With people like him at the open mic. And I was thinking about that for a while. I don't think so, So this is just called Walt Whitman at the open mic. So this big, hairy, homeless-looking guy in a hat shuffles up to the mic with a sheaf of loose-leaf pages tucked under his arm, and the guy next to me says, "Oh no, not him again," and leaves. For a big man, he has a high, squeaky voice, and he begins with these poems. A call in the midst of a crowd, my own voice, outrun, sweeping and final. And he goes on. Bring myself here and now to the ambushed womb of the shadows and on, even after they cut the mic. Turn down the lights and fire up the karaoke machine. Oh, admirers, praise me, compliment not me. You make me wince. I see what you do not. I know what you do not know. And he's still there when a thin, middle-aged woman with a smoker's voice belts into Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You to the cheers of the crowd. He is still there. Thank you very much.
So let's have another round of applause for our featured performers for tonight. So we're going to do open mic, and then we'll ask Nathan to come up and do one more song. Did anybody who wanted to sign up for open mic not get a chance to do so yet?
I might read something, but not on my own. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to just add your name to the
Yes,
end
I
of
will.
this? It's Aaron?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a pen? So,
Nobody has a pen.
I got writers and nobody has a pen. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So the way this works is that I'll introduce the first reader, who will introduce the second reader, who will introduce the third reader, and so on. So first up tonight is Hiromi Yoshida. Please come on up to the mic.
Okay, I am really thrilled to be able to read at open mic with the great Matthew Graham and Tony Berger. This is great. I'm thrilled. And I'm also really thrilled about this chance to read from my most recent Icarus Superstar poetry chapbook that just came out a couple of weeks ago. And Tony has blurbed it beautifully. Really psyched. He should be a professional blurber. I mean, he's the greatest. Yes. Okay, so I'll just read two poems from here. The first one is called Say Her Asian Name. And this is about the Atlanta spa shootings, and I guess this month would be the 2-year anniversary since that tragic incident. say her Asian name. Since her arrival in the United States of America, her Chinese name, whatever it had been, blurred away. A smudged sequence of ink-brushed ideographs signifying sounds butchered by tripping anglicized tones, locked into bite-sized ching-chong onomatopoeia, off-key sing-song syllables, two Zen hands clapping. She was the Atlanta gunman's pathological symptom. His sin. Massage parlor whore. Orientalized desire victim. Paper china doll tucked away into stale fortune cookies. Incinerated after the spark of candlelight vigils in March 2021. Ignited Stop Asian Hate hashtags, and her papery edges caught fire. The Asian American dream gunned down. No mountains, gold. Chinatown's oozing away, lighting a glossy tourist pamphlets, sticking it with chop suey fingerprints. Even now, she has no real Chinese name. Maxine Hong Kingston's no-name woman. The spectral signifier rising from Phoenix ash. So say her Asian name, her no-name woman's name. Xiaojie, Emily Tan. Xiaojie, a Mandarin prefix and slang for prostitute. Emily, a whitewashing parenthetical afterthought. She is the ideograph slipping away toward the lexicography of new hashtags. That smudgy marginal gloss, drop of coagulated vigil candle wax, paper money burning for the unappeasable gods, squatching on gold mountains. Okay, and I'll read just one more from Icarus Superstar. And again, it's about a marginalized woman, that she is so marginalized that she didn't even make the news or make anthologies of Greek myth or anything like that. And this is called Mother of Icarus. The mother of Icarus was effaced from the father-son narrative, as though she didn't matter. Who was she who birthed that silly, defiant boy? Who became that scrawny, flipped bird, F-word embodiment? Motherless fetus plunging into the amniotic formaldehyde sea, now a green rose, blooming from the splashing dapple of the sun's coin-sized reflection. Did the mother of Icarus sweep up her hair in intricate braids round her worried head each morning before she stoked the fire for their breakfast? Did she shatter the earthenware pots in her over-eagerness to serve her husband and son? Did she bunch up her skirts around her thick waist and wide hips to wade in the Aegean Sea, soaking her tired, flat feet? Did she sprout winds in the secret dark of her own mazy mind? Did she ossify into a crumbling caryatid, pillar of salt? Did she become the ball of thread in Ariadne's hands, unraveling its long-winded way toward liberation from Crete? Did she smile when green roses bloomed for Icarus? Next up, we have the incomparable Joan Hawkins.
Well, thank you. Those were beautiful poems, weren't they? So, like many families, my family has many secrets, and I tend to think that my family's secrets are a little stranger than most families, but maybe we all feel that way about our family secrets. Anyway, that's what this is called, family secrets. Your great uncle Mott died in a Nazi work camp, my mother tells me. It's my 30th birthday, and in my mother's fashion, there's a party atmosphere. I'm wearing a gold paper crown. There are streamers, those little party horns, and a dinner of Hawaiian pork chops, a cake, champagne. I wonder why she has waited until my 30th birthday, the age when Jesus set out to redeem humanity, to tell me this. We just never talk about it, she says, pouring more wine. I think about the Holocaust movies I saw at school, 4th grade, 6th grade, and every year after, sobbing for the people who died and the cruelty, but also for myself because my family came from Germany. If she told me before, I wouldn't have felt like a Nazi, I said. Searched the faces of cinematic SS officers for family resemblance, thought I caught a glimpse of an uncle, worried about the relatives my parents never mentioned. They who talked so often about the war, but always stateside. My father's service, air raid sirens, blackout curtains, food rationing. You were always tender-hearted, my mother says, and I wonder what that has to do with keeping secrets. When I'm 35, she tells me we're not 100% German. This is in a Hungarian restaurant, and she recognizes the dishes because her mother made them. Where do you think you and I got our cheekbones, she says. My mother. I thought your mother was German. Well, Mom tells me, Austro-Hungarian. She spoke German. When I'm 40, my brother begins a family tree, traces my mother's lineage back to Hungary, some drunken great uncles who tried to raise silkworms, and my grandmother leaving with a wealthy family working as an au pair. In the manner of all old-timey family trees, names appear and reappear. Saved, my mother said. But other names fall away. Old Testament names like Esther and Ruth replaced with the names of saints, Maria, Anna, Christine. Terry Sloan.
Don't worry, the Prince bit. I've been freaking out about artificial intelligence coming for artists and writers like ChatGPT and DALL-E. This is a dark poem. This is my concept of it. It's called Golly Income Free. I have dreamt a nightmare future, not carbon-based, but silicon. All the world and all it contains, not wonder, but mere resource. The end man, neither incandescent flash nor piteous whimper, just a slow withering into irrelevance, trapped in a masturbatory, cyclic, tick-tock assisted suicidal loop, betrayed by our predilection for addiction, be it spiritual, chemical, intellectual, sexual, or electrical, digitized into obliviousness. Will hardly notice our disappearance. Let's call the whole thing off. This is the world I live in. Meaningful transformation. But you and I agree, and we make it all up as we go along. Worlds of the flesh, worlds of the mind, undifferentiated worlds outside of time. Can the meaning of meaning give meaning to the meaningless? Say it isn't so, or say it is. The present talks the future into existence. Push the hot breath out and create a world. Breathe the cool air in and swallow one. Still the breath and see how long a new world lasts. And this is a bumper sticker that I lived most of my life by. Leap before you look. Marked by life, by choice, I choose my marks by choice. Those I acquire by nature's demand, I have likewise have embraced. Living to avoid the marks of a marked life is to live a life bounded, prescribed, constricted, and constrained. This is, in fact, no life at all. Hey, check out my new tattoo. That's a schematic diagram of a poem that I wrote, but if you want to read it, you have to buy the book. Sorry. The most important part, April Ridge.
Hi there. I'm gonna take off my glasses because it's either that or the mask, and every time I come to one of these things and don't wear a mask, I get sick. So I just want to preface this with a poem by John Wieners. Today is the 21st anniversary of his death, and he was a Boston beat poet involved in the San Francisco Renaissance, Black Mountain College, anti-war, gay rights advocate. And so I just want to read a couple of his poems. This one is called Time. Why is it eternity lasts a moment eternity? Are you quiet enough to hear horned owls at dawn? I hear voices rustle in the leaves after they are gone. New mice burst into life. Small raccoons bear tiny chains around their wrists. And then these next two are way different mood than these two are about me. This first one was kind of funny. I try to find humor in death. I think about death a lot for some reason. So this one's called Morbid Sense of Duty. A morbid sense of duty hangs over my head to pick out all the music for my party when I'm dead. I plan my going away soiree like a giddy bride-to-be, arranging that special day as a one-woman funeral committee, studying dioramas of where to place each seat to create the most interesting dramas. Those loving mourners will not soon forget me. Just wait until they see the lovely parlor games, the processional party favors from me, the tossing of the celebrational bouquet, the colorful photo booth with props for selfies, the midget 3-ring circus routine. These guests will be too busy laughing to be weeping on this day of mortal souls reaping. And this one is called Life is a Constant Changing Wheel. No one tells you after you turn 40, you'll start blooming little Santa Claus hairs on random parts of your face. If you're lucky, they'll spawn. Suddenly, you have blonde mutton chops. No one tells you sneezes become dangerous occurrences. You're unsure of whether you'll soil yourself or have a mild aneurysm. No one tells you suddenly your waistline is replaced with unrealistic visions of fitting into those pants that used to slide over youthful hips not that long ago. No one tells you of the impending doom you feel for no obvious reason. Your hormones committing flagrant treason against your logical emotions, just begging for an outburst you feel as if you were constantly stifling. No one tells you the beginning of hot flashes, mood swings, intermittent nuances of homicidal rage, mingled with night sweats and nostalgia wrapped in fond childhood memories you are unsure of. Are they real or fabricated, partially due to an early onset of dementia? No one tells you these things. In youth, you imagine your later years to be stable, rational times where you have it all figured out. No one warns you of this battering of new, mostly unpleasant side effects of being a middle-aged female. Like teenage years, confusion, body changes, terror of anyone finding out these weird things you are feeling and thinking, or what your body is doing. Life is a constant changing wheel. No one tells you what you are to do when it starts to slow down. And then I have one more, and this one is another one by John Wieners. This one is for Jem Dunn, and it's called A Poem for Trapped Things. This morning, with the blue flame burning, this thing wings its way in. Wind shakes the edges of its yellow being, gasping for breath, living for the instant, climbing up the black border of the window. Why do you want out? I sit in pain, a red robe amid debris. You bend and climb, extending antennae. I know the butterfly is my soul grown weak from battle. A giant fan on the back of a beetle. A caterpillar chrysalis that seeks a new home apart from this room and will disappear from sight at the pulling on invisible strings. Yet so tenuous, so fine this thing is. I am sitting on the hard bed. We could vanish from sight like the puff off an invisible cigarette. Furred chest, ragged silk under wings beating against the glass. No one will open. The blue diamonds on your back are too beautiful to do away with. I watch you all morning long with my hand over my mouth. Thank you. And up next is James Dorff.
Hey, am I hearable?
Yes.
This will be the second of a series of 5 interrelated stories based loosely on a New Orleanian urban legend that make up the Casket Suite. And people may remember from last month, we heard the flavor of the jest, in which we met Ame and we learned of the origin of the Casket Girls. Here we've moved forward nearly 150 years in time for a surfeit probe. They were the Casket Girls, Les Filles Cassettes, having come to New Orleans in 1728, turned into vampires by one of their number, the one named Ame. They had come to be married, sent by none other than King Louis XV himself, and had married well, amassing from their husbands wealth and power, exchanging the old for the new as his first husbands aged and died, and so had formed an exclusive club. They did work for charity, founding a hospital, helping patients who suffered from bad blood. Cupping was the standard practice of the day, and never mind what happened to the blood then. And they held regular meetings among themselves in which they discussed the events of the world and other such things that they found of interest. So it was that Yvonne had returned from France from a recent visit, younger looking and rather more stylish than when she had left. This was a thing they did, going back to France. They're claiming now that they were their own daughters. How else to explain perpetual youth? And having left often as a grieving widow, now back on the prowl to obtain a new husband. Not to mention new riches and comfort, for if was one to be all but immortal, better to spend one's time wealthy than poor. And they spent their time learning, some of them anyway. Yvonne, for instance, usually the quiet one, the dreamer, the poet who kept things in her head, churning and churning until they were ready to be put on paper. But this time pulling a book from her luggage, in French, of course, Histoires extraordinaires. It is from an up-and-coming young writer, Charles-Pierre Baudelaire, she said. But the thing is, it was not written by him. Then why do you have it? Claudette asked, laughing. She, the literal-minded one, was always ready for a joke as well. It was given to me, Yvonne said. Charles, that is, Monsieur Baudelaire, when he heard I was leaving for New Orleans, said they were translations he had made of our American poet, Edgar Allan Poe. He thought they were quite good, the originals, that is, though others had praised the translations too. But these are not poems, Claudette, who had taken the book and now held it up, said. As you see, they are stories, not poetry at all. But did he not write Le Corbeau, Lo asked? She had been back to France the decade before and was always the most glamorous of them all. I mean, I'm not so much a reader myself, but Aimée has a copy. She showed it to me once. And stories as well, but they all seem so sad about people who had bad things happen to them. The Raven, yes, Aimée said. Poe wrote the poem not that long before his death. It is popular still. Yes, and for the stories I have read Aimé's book before, too, Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque, Claudette said, smiling. For myself, I've enjoyed them, though certainly they are often dark. But then we are too, aren't we? And now they can also be read in France, Yvonne said. She envied this Poe, Baudelaire as well, although not always agreeing with all his sentiments. But the way both of them had with words, the one in English and the other Francais. And as for Le Corbeau, she tried to remember something Poe himself had written. But Lo interrupted. Yes, she said, both Poe and we are dark. And no doubt this Baudelaire as well. But then why do they not write stories about us? If that were the case, perhaps I would enjoy them more. Alain and several of the others who had not spoken yet not agreed. Well, Claudette offered, there may be one or two, such as Ligeia. This one Baudelaire has in his book too. But it's not, Lo protested. That is, he has it backward. Yes, there is a woman who will live forever, but is a loose spirit who seeks new bodies. While we retain our bodies and souls too, as long as we wish them. Symbolically, though, Aimée said, is not the Raven a sort of a vampire? He takes all hope from him, Poe, perhaps, who is speaking through the poem, even the hope of eternal rest. She looked up from the copy of Baudelaire's book, which she had now been leafing through. That is, I would hope we don't always go that far, but... Now Yvonne remembered it practically word for word, almost exactly 10 years before in Graham's magazine, Poe's essay on how he had written The Raven. Listen, she said, this is how he described it, Poe himself and on poetry in general. Of all melancholy topics, what is the most melancholy? His answer was death. And when he asked, is this most melancholy of topics most poetical? This is what Poe said. when it most closely allies itself with beauty. The deathbed of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most practical, the most poetical topic in the world. Perhaps he did not realize that after death, some of us continue, but we are the undead, then, are we not? Claudette laughed out loud. Yes, beautiful, dead, and now living again. So by his own words, the best of Miss Poe's work was written about us. May looked up again. She had not heard this theory before, but she nodded and smiled. Eric Rensberger.
So I'm going to be reading off my phone tonight. I'm going to be reading something older. But before I do that, I'm going to do an anecdote. So it's going to be anecdote poem. Then I'm done. So, and the anecdote, it was like kind of popped into my head when I heard about Dick and Jane, because my stepmother, Alberta Augsburger Hartzler Rensberger, taught for some decades at the grade school in Honeyville, Indiana. Honeyville, Indiana is a little settlement in northern Indiana that is entirely Amish. So you have to imagine teaching first grade for all that time, every single student that she taught spoke English as a second language with varying degrees of proficiency. Another thing that made that public school experience a little bit different than the suburban Dick and Jane thing that people were presented with was, when you went down, at least back in those days, and probably still today, so you drove down some of those county roads, and you looked around and you thought, oh, what is this I'm seeing? I'm seeing something odd. Is it the horses' asses as the farmers are plowing their fields? It's what I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing any poles, because there wouldn't be any reason to put a pole on those roads. Nobody on that road had electricity in their house. Nobody had a telephone. So Alberta had a number of stories about this, and one of the stories was there was some of the reading materials the state presented to work with the kids and things, and for story time and all that. And she had this story time thing about a family trip, mom taking the kids to a department store, which they didn't have, but I think you figured it out, but they don't have department stores in Honeyville, Indiana. And so she was reading, and the kids saw the escalator to go up to the second floor, and they were excited, and they rode the escalator. And one of the kids sticks up their hand, what's an escalator? And Alberta goes, well, a stairs, and it's like the steps are always moving. Moving? Yeah, like moving up. Well, what do they do when they get to the top? Well, they kind of disappear and they come out the bottom again. And it was just clear. The kids had a bunch of questions like this, which are perfectly obvious, very good questions if you are unfamiliar with an escalator, but you don't. If you are, it doesn't occur to you. So anyways, she got through that. Family messes around on the second floor, and the mom goes, hey, let's take the elevator down. So they go to the elevator, and the kid goes, what's an elevator? And Alberta Augsburger Hartzler Rensberger says, well, you press this button, and this door opens, and there's a little room. And you go into the room, and there's a wall of buttons, and then you press one of the buttons, the door closes again, and then in a few seconds, it's opened, and you're in a different part of the building. And she looked out at the room, and she saw a bunch of faces like this. And she said, children, get out your crayons. We're going to do art. So thank you for inspiring me. So I'm going to the thing I'm gonna read is some kind of rhapsodic spring thing because the weather is turning nice and we're getting towards there. This was written a number of years ago, a little bit later. And the thing I wanna, the setup thing I need to say is, on the road leading to the main highway into town, from my house, I go through this little valley. And then as you go, hit the flat part and get ready to go up, there's this giant hill slope that's a cattle pasture. And in April, there's an April green that grass gets that it does not have the rest of the year. And it only lasts for 3-4 weeks, but it's the most intense green you've ever seen. So there's this giant hill slope of green with these black cattle wandering around on it. Anyways, it's fields. Green wing of the hill, a world in flight. The creek's hands working all day on the stones tumble, singing. The knock at dawn, woodpecker working overhead. Hunger lifts him there. And the young tree which storms shook, shaking with new leaves broken out. Broken at her feet, the body feasted on, the heart torn open when the talons pulled. Air layered light and heavy, storms from the heights whirling, lightning from dark nests, flies singing. A night coming full of shaking and singing. A night drawn over us, deep in us, working all through our sleep and breaking open its fields of us. And our last reader is Erin.
Hello, everyone. I wasn't really anticipating coming in and reading today, but just supporting a friend that was going to come. And I hadn't been to one since pre-COVID. Like, literally, the show prior to COVID was my last time attending. And I did read that night, and that was the first time I ever read on stage. And it was Nate Marshall, and it was Black History Month, and I wanted to honor him. And as it is now March, I do still think it's fitting to consider Amanda Gorman, and I plan to be teaching this soon. I have been dying to get this out into my classroom. I have a group of 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and I have a poetry unit that I waited to start until right before April. We're starting it right after spring break, and going to be exposing them to Amanda Gorman. And I thought I'd share that while I was here today. I didn't want to come empty-handed. I thought maybe my friend April handed me the pen. So thank you. I'll start off with just the introduction that she has. Amanda Gorman, again, such an inspiration. And it's so good. It's the very first song. I guess it's not the intro, but it's the very first, not song, excuse me. Very first poem.
You just speak into the mic.
Ships manifest. Allegedly, the worst is behind us. Still, we crouch before the lip of tomorrow, halting like a headless haunt in our own house, waiting to remember exactly what it is we're supposed to be doing and what exactly are we supposed to be doing. Penning a letter to the world as a daughter of it? Are we writing with vanishing meaning? Are words water dragging down a windshield? The poet's diagnosis is that what we have lived has already worked itself into a fever dream. The contours of its shape stripped from our murky mind. To be accountable, we must render an account. Not what was said, but what was meant. Not the fact, but what was felt. What was known, even while unnamed. Our greatest test will be our testimony. This book is a message in a bottle. This book is a letter. This book does not let up. This book is awake. This book is awake for what is a record, but also a reckoning. The capsule captured, a repository, an arc articulated, and the poet, the preserver of ghosts and gains, our dreams, our demons, our haunts and our hopes. Here's to the preservation of a light so terrible. And then, very fitting for the current unit we're in, we're doing a combination of dystopia, which has been so amazing. So awesome to be able to teach that alongside my co-teacher and kind of a tie into the pandemic and everything. We're kind of doing a faux zombie apocalypse and what you might do, where you might settle geographically, what you might need, what would matter. And it's all too real, but also something for our students to consider and in a very forward-thinking way. And I'm excited to be a part of it. This is called Pan. Pandemic, meaning all people. Pandemonium, meaning all demon. Pandora, meaning all gifted. Pan, meaning God of nature. All people have meaning. Are all demon? All gifted? It is our divine nature. We now appreciate that Pandora's box was ajar, left ajar. A pithos, to tell the mistranslation then is to risk being remembered by its fiction. Meaning a storage container for grain, oil, wheat, and even the dead. We all need places to lay down our grief. Where else to put it? That vessel held all plague, all pain, and all hope. Don't panic. Instead, turn to a companion. What are we, if not the curiosity to open the coffins we carry? Who are we, if not all the things we let loose?
Yay.
Okay, when? And this is just because, and it's midway through the book. We forget this immensity, it will still be ours, for we wrote such mysteries down. We did the things others dared not. We collected all the dazzling and dangerous and dreamed aches, scraped them, though we did not yet have words by which to map them. Someone will remember us, this, even if in another time, even if by any other name. We wrap our arms around ourselves as if we can possibly hold the whole of who we are within us. Everything that makes us this unearthly speck we are. perhaps tomorrow cannot wait to be today. In this one life, we, like our joy, are fleeting but certain, abstract and absolute, ghosts who glow and glow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I thought I'd play a 30-minute opus. I'm just kidding. Erin's my boys teacher too. That's great to hear you read.
Great to see you.
All right. So the last song I'm going to play for you is a song I wrote for my wife. Came out on the last Baker Brothers record, which is a band I've been running for years. And I don't know if you've ever tried to keep a secret from someone who can read your mind, but it's incredibly difficult. So after keeping the song a secret for months and finally getting it recorded, the first thing I did was hit play so I could stop holding on to this anymore. So the song is called Stumbling in Love. So. Falling upstairs and singing love songs, hobbled by streets of cobblestone, in through the outdoor over and over again. Stumbling in love, please take my hand. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. I'm a fool stumbling in love. Head in the clouds up above. Reel me in like a kite on a string. In this mixed up world, you're the only thing I'm sure of. I'm a fool in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. I'm a fool stumbling in love. Leaving early, left a note on the mirror. Caught a glimpse of my goofy grin. I'm so glad you can love a fool. Look at the state I'm in. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. Stumbling in love, stumbling in love. I'm so glad you can love a fool. I'm a fool stumbling in love. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you everyone for coming on, and a reminder that next, it won't be first Wednesday in April, it'll be first Thursday, and we'll be over at the Bishop. And Matthew, could I ask a favor of you? I didn't get a picture of you up at the podium.
It looks nice with the waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to read. You can't fake portrait.
You're like Frank Sinatra.
That's just how I remember.
Sure.
Sorry, you went back. My wife's